Have you ever felt restless, like something inside you is telling you that you were made for more? That feeling isn't random. It's a divine signal. God is stirring your spirit because He's calling you to something greater. The question is, will you listen or stay where it's comfortable? My friends, have you ever felt like life was testing you? Like the struggles you face are too much to bear? I want to remind you today, God is shaping you right now, even when you don't see it, even when you don't feel it. He is working behind the scenes, molding you into the person He created you to be. Struggles are a part of life, and for many, they may feel like endless obstacles that drain hope and strength. However, from a faith perspective, struggles are not punishments, but preparation. When you go through hardships, it's easy to wonder why God allows pain and suffering. You may question His plan, asking why He lets you experience heartache, loss, rejection, and failure. But the truth is, God never wastes pain. Every difficulty you face is part of a divine process, shaping you into the person He has called you to be. The Bible reminds us in Romans 8:28, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose." This verse reassures us that even in the most difficult times, God is working behind the scenes, using every trial, every setback, and every hardship to mold us for something greater. Nothing in your life happens by accident. When you go through struggles, they are refining you like gold in the fire, removing impurities and making you stronger. Think about the way gold is pure form. Gold in its raw form is not beautiful. It is filled with impurities and has little value until it undergoes an intense refining process. It is placed in the fire, where the heat burns away the impurities, leaving behind pure, valuable gold. The same principle applies to your life. Your struggles are the fire, and while they may feel unbearable, they are actually refining you, strengthening you, and preparing you for a greater purpose. Look at the lives of biblical figures who went through immense struggles before stepping into their divine calling. Joseph was betrayed by his brothers, thrown into a pit, and sold into slavery. He was falsely accused and imprisoned for years. But through all these hardships, God was shaping him. If Joseph had not endured these struggles, he would not have been prepared for the leadership role that God had destined for him. Eventually, he became second in command over Egypt, saving countless lives during a famine. What seemed like a series of painful misfortunes was actually God's process of molding him into a powerful leader. Another example is David, who was anointed to be king as a young shepherd boy, but before he sat on the throne, he spent years running for his life from King Saul. He lived in caves, faced betrayal, and experienced deep loneliness. However, all those struggles were preparing him to be the greatest king Israel had ever known. If he had not endured hardships, he would not have developed the strength, wisdom, and faith needed to rule. You may feel like your struggles are breaking you, but in reality they are shaping you. Every trial you endure builds endurance, character, and faith. God is using your pain to prepare you for something far greater than you can imagine. The job you lost, the relationship that didn't work out, the financial struggles, the health challenges, none of it is wasted. God sees the bigger picture, and what feels like suffering today will become your testimony tomorrow. James 1:2-4 says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. This scripture reminds us that trials are not meaningless. They have a purpose. They are meant to refine us, strengthen our faith, and help us grow into the people God created us to be. Without struggles, we would remain spiritually weak, lacking the perseverance needed to fulfill God's calling on our lives. In today's world, many people want instant success and an easy life, but in God's kingdom, greatness comes through refinement. Just as an athlete must endure intense training to become stronger, and just as a seed must be buried before it grows into a tree, you must go through trials to reach your full potential. If you are facing difficulties right now, do not be discouraged. Do not believe the lie that God has abandoned you. He is with you in the fire, just as He was with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace. He did not remove them from the fire, but He protected them in it. Sometimes God does not take away our struggles immediately because they are necessary for our growth. Your pain has a purpose. Your struggles are not in vain. They are preparing you for the blessings that are coming. Trust God's process even when you don't understand it. The hardships you face today are shaping you into the person who will step into your God-given destiny. Keep the faith because God is working all things together for your good. Life is full of moments when things don't go as planned. You work hard for an opportunity, pray for a breakthrough, and invest your time and energy into something you believe in, only to watch the door slam shut. Rejection stings. A lost job, a failed relationship, or a missed opportunity can leave you questioning God's plan. But what if the closed doors in your life are not setbacks, but setups for something greater? What if the things you see as disappointments are actually divine redirections? In God's perfect wisdom, He sometimes allows doors to close because He has something better in store. The Bible reassures us in Proverbs 3:5-6, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your path straight." This verse reminds us that our understanding is limited, but God sees the full picture. What may seem like rejection is often God's protection. He closes doors to redirect us toward His perfect plan. Instead of seeing a closed door as an obstacle, recognize it as a divine intervention. Consider the story of Moses and the Israelites. When they left Egypt, they faced what seemed like an impossible situation, the Red Sea before them and Pharaoh's army behind them. From a human perspective, every door was closed. There was no way forward, no way back. But in that moment, God was making a way where there seemed to be none. He parted the Red Sea, leading them to safety and closing the path behind them to prevent them from returning to bondage. What appeared to be a dead end was actually God's way of protecting them and guiding them to the promised land. In our own lives, we often chase after things that God never intended for us. Maybe you applied for a job that seemed like the perfect fit, but you weren't selected. Perhaps you invested in a relationship believing it was meant to last, but it ended unexpectedly. It's natural to feel discouraged, but God knows what is ahead. That job might have led to stress and frustration. That relationship may have pulled you away from His purpose. When He closes a door, He is not trying to hurt you. He is saving you from something that is not aligned with His plan. Think about Joseph, who was sold into slavery by his brothers. He had dreams of greatness, but instead of rising to power immediately, he found himself in a pit, then in prison. Every door seemed closed, yet Each setback was actually setting him up for something greater. If Joseph had not been sold into slavery, he would not have ended up in Egypt. If he had not been falsely accused and imprisoned, he would not have met the Pharaoh's cupbearer. And if he had not interpreted the dreams in prison, he would not have been elevated to a position of authority. But looked like a series of closed doors was actually God's divine positioning. Isaiah 55:8 says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." This verse is a reminder that when things don't go our way, it's because God has a higher plan. Our perspective is limited, but He sees the future. He knows the opportunities that are right for us and the ones that will lead us astray. Sometimes we fight to keep doors open that God is trying to close. We hold on to relationships that are no longer meant for us. We pursue careers that do not align with our calling. We refuse to let go of what is familiar, even when God is calling us into something greater. But true faith means trusting Him even when we don't understand. It means believing that a closed door is not the end, but the beginning of something better. When God closes a door, it's because He has a greater purpose. It may not make sense right away, but in time you will see His hand at work. Just like a parent who stops a child from running into danger, God blocks paths that are not meant for us. He redirects us to places where we can grow, thrive, and fulfill our true purpose. Instead of focusing on what didn't work out, focus on what He is preparing for you. Trust that every closed door is leading you to a greater blessing. There are times in life when you feel restless, uncomfortable, and uncertain about where you are. It's as if something inside of you is stirring, telling you that you were made for more. This feeling of unease is not random. It is often a sign that God is calling you to a higher purpose. When you feel restless, it may be because God is preparing you for a new season, pushing you out of your comfort zone and calling you into something greater. Too often, people resist this feeling and settle for less than what God has planned. But when God is moving, you cannot afford to stay where you are. The Bible reminds us in Jeremiah 29:11, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." God's plan for you is greater than you can imagine, but before He leads you into your destiny, He often creates a sense of discomfort to push you toward change. That feeling of restlessness is not there by accident. It is a divine signal that He is shifting things in your life. Throughout Scripture, we see how God stirs the hearts of His people when it is time for them to move forward. Look at Abraham, who was living a comfortable life in his homeland when God told him to leave everything behind and go to a land He would show him. Abraham didn't even know where he was going, but he felt the divine call to step into something greater. If he had ignored that restlessness and stayed where he was, he would have never become the father of many nations. His discomfort was the catalyst for his calling. The same is true for Moses. He was raised in Pharaoh's palace, living a life of luxury, but deep inside he felt uneasy about the oppression of his people. That restlessness led him to leave the palace and eventually become the deliverer of Israel. If Moses had ignored that feeling and remained comfortable in Pharaoh's house, he would have missed his divine assignment. God often makes you uncomfortable when He is preparing you for something bigger than yourself. Many times, people ignore this feeling of spiritual discomfort because they fear change. They prefer the familiarity of their current situation, even if it is not where they are meant to be. But when you ignore God's calling, you delay your destiny. He does not create restlessness in your spirit for no reason. He is trying to tell you that there is more for you, that He has something greater ahead. Isaiah 43:19 says, "See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland." When God is preparing you for a new season, He starts stirring things within you. He gives you a sense that there is more to life than what you are currently experiencing. If you feel like you are outgrowing certain situations, relationships, or even environments, it may be because God is calling you to something greater. This divine restlessness can show up in different ways. It might be a dissatisfaction with your current job, even if it provides financial security. It could be a feeling that you need to move to a new place or pursue a different path. It might be an urge to start something new, even when you don't have all the details figured out. When God is calling you higher, He will not allow you to stay comfortable in a place that no longer serves your purpose. Sometimes people experience this stirring but hesitate to move forward because they feel unqualified or afraid of failure. But God does not call the qualified, He qualifies the called. He does not expect you to have everything figured out before you take the first step. All He requires is your obedience. When Peter saw Jesus walking on the water, he felt the divine call to step out of the boat. It was an impossible situation, but as long as Peter kept his eyes on Jesus, he was able to walk on water. The moment he doubted, he started sinking. The lesson here is clear. When God calls you to step into something greater, trust Him completely. Don't focus on the waves, focus on the one who controls them. If you have been feeling restless and uncertain, don't ignore that feeling. It may be God's way of telling you that you were created for more. Pay attention to the signs He is placing in your path. He may be closing certain doors, removing people from your life, or giving you new desires and passions. When He is shifting you, trust His process. Even if you don't have all the answers, remember that He is leading you toward a future greater than anything you could plan for yourself.